You may be surprised to know that it's unusual for me to be announced in my job. Because when you become a mayor, everyone knows your name, everyone tells you what to do and how to do it better, and then holds you accountable for getting it done. A famous Syracuse alum put it this way: I never had an interest in being a mayor because that's a real job. You have to produce. That was this guy, Joe Biden, wearing the t-shirt that I bought him. When I asked the vice president about this quote, he laughed and he said, "We do war and peace, and you do everything else." And the upside of doing everything else is, well, you don't have to introduce yourself. I have a job where you have to produce. But the real upside of being a mayor right now is that American cities are in the midst of a great revival. The tides of suburbanization have shifted, and we are witnessing a remigration to our cities. In 2011, for the first time in 90 years, American cities registered higher growth than the suburbs. Why? Because cities are incubators for problem solving, creativity, and innovation, the essential criteria to succeed in a knowledge-based economy. And it's not just big cities like LA, Chicago, and New York. No, in fact, according to McKinsey & Company, the real dynamism when it comes to American cities is happening in the so-called middleweights. Cities located in MSAs between 150,000 and 10 million. Middleweights are home to 70% of the U.S. population and produce 70% of the gross domestic product. And that is huge economic clout. And that's us. That's Syracuse. We are a middleweight. So it's very real to say that the success of the American economy is contingent on the success of a city like Syracuse. And what is it about cities, big or small, that accounts for this growth? Well, new data shows that when cities grow and as people come together, ideas populate. Positive outcomes grow exponentially, or in a TED Talk word, superlinearly. The theory being that density from networks drives ideas, information flows, opportunities, and ultimately all of that interaction drives productivity. As cities grow, our connections to each other grow by an exponential factor, and that is the root of productivity. Cities facilitate interactions, the exchange of ideas, and collaboration, which leads to innovation. And innovation is the fuel of the modern economy. Problem solving, creativity, innovation. Mayors are doing this because we can't afford not to. Because, as my friend Joe Biden said, mayors have to produce. So let me give you a couple of examples. In Boston, the mayor's office spearheaded the development of an app called Streamlined. Volunteers use the Street Bump mobile app to collect information, which is then, as they drive, which is then aggregated and sent back to the city. The data is used by the city to fix short-term problems and plan for long-term investment. Or Greenville, South Carolina, where city leaders were determined to clean up and turn around a boarded up and crime-ridden downtown. With a lot of planning and partnerships, the city decided to remove a functional bridge that blocked the waterfalls from the rest of the city. And in doing so, they opened up access to the waterfall, they created a world-acclaimed park, an elegant pedestrian bridge, and resulted in a bustling downtown. In Providence, Rhode Island, a city that is often compared to Syracuse, the city found that 2/3 of kindergartners were behind in recognizing basic language sounds and identifying letters. In response, Providence developed Providence Talks, an initiative that gives recorders to the city's poorest children. The tiny recorders records words that children hear. That information is analyzed and then used to provide feedback to the parents to help close the knowledge gap long before school starts. Right here in Syracuse, we're engaging in the same kind of innovation. Here too, like Providence, we recognize that too many of our children were being left behind. And we committed to a strategy to increase post-secondary readiness. The challenges associated with urban education require new thinking and innovation. Poverty, hunger, instability, these are the challenges that separate our children from academic success. Syracuse is the first city in the nation to partner with Say Yes to Education to establish the Say Yes to Education program throughout its entire district. Say Yes provides holistic supports to students, extended day learning, summer programming, legal, and health counseling. And additionally, Say Yes allows city school graduates to attend Say Yes compact colleges tuition-free. Yes, tuition-free. That led this man to say, in Syracuse, you have declared that no child in Syracuse should miss out on a college education because they can't afford to pay for it. That was President Obama on August 22nd of last year. On another front, we determined to systematically address properties that have been abandoned in the city of Syracuse. Vacant and abandoned property is a scourge of every city across the country, and it is the biggest worry of every urban neighborhood. In Syracuse, we created the Greater Syracuse Land Bank to enable the city to aggressively foreclose on delinquent tax properties, transfer that property to the land bank, which then stabilizes it, markets it, and sells it to new owners and brings a new energy and dynamism to our neighborhoods. Look at cities and you see ideology trumps politics, policies looking towards the future, and a drive to solve problems, not create them. And as a result, we see the promise that this holds for all of us, for 70% of the American population producing 70% of the gross domestic product. Cities have overtaken the national government as engines of growth and innovation. And yes, cities offer the promise of a brighter future for all of us, but that promise must be nurtured or it will be lost. Cities and mayors cannot be expected to rescue the American future alone, yet that is exactly what is being asked of us. Innovation, creativity, problem solving, these are the very traits we seem to have lost at all levels of government. Ask yourself, what has the state or the national government done to foster this innovation to those of us who are creating the environment, supporting 70% of our gross domestic product? Now, I'll admit, I am impatient, but maybe it's because I look out from my window on what was the Erie Canal, the marvel of the 19th century. The Erie Canal was the idea of an imprisoned flour merchant who had a better idea to get his goods to market. And in jail, he wrote a series of essays that captured the attention of Syracuse Assemblyman Joshua Foreman. Joshua Foreman became the earliest champion of the Erie Canal, even going to Washington to lobby Thomas Jefferson, who called it, quote, a little short of madness. But that didn't stop Syracuse, and it didn't stop New York State. No, we carved 363 miles of wilderness with nothing but livestock and the muscle power of men, largely poor immigrants, rich with hope and a strong work ethic. You see, it was really very simple. The Erie Canal was a direct economic investment to move goods and people efficiently, infrastructure. And in doing so, it accomplished unthinkable engineering feats, and it transformed our nation. Compare that with the situation we now face. Infrastructure across the country under stress, potholes, 100-year-old water mains and sewer systems, dangerous leaking gas lines, and transportation systems in a state of disrepair. And how has the federal government responded? Well, the Highway Trust Fund is out of cash. Congress gives us dramatically less funding for transportation infrastructure. How about the state? Well, the state has admitted that they're deferring maintenance on roads, bridges, and tunnels. And when the local government officials come and ask for help, Well, we're told we're whining, and we're even called the Tin Cup Brigade. Ask yourself, how are we going to have economic development if mayors can't deliver water or remove sewage? But now, when you understand, it's not just infrastructure that this is happening. It's education, it's immigration, it's income inequality. So now when you read Vice President Biden's quote, you understand what I understand. I have a real job, and I have to produce in the face of almost insurmountable odds. But it's not just me. This is a democracy. It's we. And as the Founding Fathers said in the very first Federalist paper, democracy mandates that all of us establish good government through reflection and choice. Our history as a city and as a country is characterized by innovation, by perseverance, by progressivism. And that history gives us much to be proud of. But rather than looking back with nostalgia, instead we should use that history as a guide and modern data to make sure that we all have a brighter future. A future that requires that each of us demand that the cities be nurtured, not ignored. Thank you.